these two so that we can get to this idea, right? Where is he taking this argument? You know the intent of the author. Once you identify his or her appropriation of the third part of hypothetical syllogism, which is the second antecedent, right? The second antecedent is going to show us a lot of the author's intent because he or she could have selected anything. Okay, we know we're talking about water conservation. I get that. The whole book's on water conservation. The essay, the article that I'm reading is on water conservation, so nothing new there. We arrive at population growth in water conservation. Okay, that's cool. But now he's taking that idea of population growth and he started talking about the ability to generate tax revenue. Holy crap. Why is he taking it there? Of all the things that he could have said, I thought he was going to talk something about the environment or something. He's talking about generating tax revenue. Holy crap, is he trying to connect the availability of water to making more tax revenue? I mean, is that possible? I mean, it's off the top. It's ridiculous, right? But there is some sense in which all of this could, in theory, be connected. It's finding how to connect it. That's the trick. But the second the author indicates this transition, you know what he or she is up to. Oh, okay, I see what this is. It's partly about water conservation, but it's also partly about this other thing. Because I would have never thought of connecting population growth to this new thing. So the author reveals sort of his or her intent, and you can't really hide it. You can't. There are ways of hiding it, but I'm not going to teach that because why would you need to hide it? Right? But that's another lecture, and I don't do those lectures publicly, right? This is happy-go-lucky fun stuff, right? It is impossible to disguise for all practical purposes. The obvious question is, why, of all the things you could have used to link A to C, why, in part 3, did you formulate the condition to the affirmation of consequence 1? Why did you select that? You could have selected anything. And, the author will reveal his or her intent. And usually, if there is a weakness in the author's argument, it's precisely at this point because you might be overreaching the connection. Right? The example that I just gave, I think, is a little bit ludicrous, right? There is a sense in which I could connect, theoretically, water conservation to population growth. Cool. That's fine. And there is a sense in which I can connect population growth to increased tax revenue, or the possibility for increased tax revenue. That's fine. But to then say that, increased water pumping could lead to increased tax revenue is a bit of a stretch. Right? It's a bit of a stretch. And if there is a weakness in the author's argument, it's precisely because of the attempt to link those two conditional claims via the dual function of B. So the better you get at this is the more you just don't even care about sort of the initial if-then. You want to identify two conditionals and identify the position of B in both conditionals, and then you can really attack the author if you're in sort of attack mode. Attack the author on both of those points to show the inherent weakness in the argument. And it would be inherent. If you're correct in your critique, it collapses the entire argument and the author really wouldn't have really anything to say, right? And there is a sense in which you have to be able to do this, right? So that's the first part. Okay. That link, that is the link of B, exposes author intent, but in text and rhetoric is very, very difficult to locate. Why is it difficult to locate? Because you're not going to get it in this sort of consolidated form that I'm giving you, right? It's typically the case in whatever books you're reading or whatever narratives or whatever articles you're reading that the author doesn't formalize the hypothetical in a paragraph. I'm doing it in a paragraph for pedagogical reasons. In a real argument, the hypothetical might be formalized over several hundred pages. So you have to be very, very meticulous in your note-taking to be able to say, oh, on page 10, she said, if then. And on page 27, she said, if then. And then on page 58, she used those two conditional claims to make this new claim, if then. So you have to sort of keep track of the conditional claims. And there are tricks for doing this while you're reading other people's arguments. But again, it's very, very difficult because it is almost never the case that an author, unless you're reading a logic book proper, that the author gives you the hypothetical syllogism in a page or two. It's usually over 50, 60 pages. This act of fleshing out that I'm teaching you, I've consolidated for the purposes of sort of pedagogy. But the truth is, I mean, we're talking hundreds of pages of book that it might take to fully flesh out the hypothetical, and people lose the average, even the great readers lose focus of arguments over time. They just lose the focus of the argument. So for pedagogical purposes, I will expose my intent at this point. So I'm going to show you specifically what my intent is. I want to connect increased population growth to, let's say, increased water pollution, right? So I want to make, just arbitrarily, I decided, well, you know, I don't want to go too far out there. So let me pick something that's probably connected already, and on my own, I'm going to connect the idea of population growth to water pollution, because I believe that there is some direct or indirect connection between the two. So I have to, at this point, pause my analysis and look for a credible authority that establishes the connection between increased population and pollution. Now, the truth is, I would not have selected pollution. I would have selected something different, but it really doesn't matter what I don't know what I'm talking about, what I or you select, as long as there is a real connection to an increased population growth, right? Knowing me, when I stumbled across this, I was like, holy crap. Because I didn't think I didn't come up with the idea of population growth at all. I derived it in the appropriation of modus tollens. I found an author or a website or something that spoke of the connection between population growth and water supply, and my mind immediately, once I see that connection of population, people, I think scarcity of resources, obviously, increased tension and such, competition over that supply, so my mind would have taken my analysis that direction. But I don't want to take it in that direction for the purposes of this lecture series. I want to keep sort of focused, and thus I decided to select water pollution. So it's fine, right? The connection between water pollution and population seems totally legitimate. Okay, so this is our first conditional, right? This is conditional 1. This claim occupies both part 1 and 2 of our hypothetical syllogism, right? Okay, now, top of page 14, I have located the citation that I will use to legitimize this connection between population growth and water pollution. Here's the Google search that I use to aid me in locating the resources, and this is specifically what I use to help me. I put population growth in scare quotes and quotes, pollution, and then I searched all the EDU sites, and I found the citation, which is perfect. The citation says the following. This exponential population proliferation has been coupled with the growth of cities and industrialization. Together, these trends have posed increasing difficulties of water quality control. The cause of water pollution range from all corners of industrial sectors and continue to be amplified by dense population, concentrated in urban areas. So I have everything I need there, right? I have population density and I have water pollution, right? That's what I was looking for. I found the citation. Now my conditional claim is legitimized by this appeal to authority that has already established a connection between population growth and water contamination. So, the preceding reference, again, remember, I haven't even finished formalizing my hypothetical syllogism yet. I'm looking for, and this is overkill, I know, this is ridiculously rigorous, but the idea is this is how you really should do it. And this is how I really do it. Right? It's a very laborious freaking time writing books or writing articles, right? If you want to write at this level, because you want to make sure that I want to make sure that my argument is airtight as much as possible. So I really do take the time. I've never done a lecture series on it, and I will never do another one of these after I finish this one, because this is tedious as hell. But the idea is, you really do need to do this. You need to extract, refine, posit sort of a precise initial conditional claim, posit a second conditional claim, derive the conclusion, and then begin. We haven't even gotten to that part yet because we're still we've established our first conditional claim on the previous page 13, and now we're attempting to establish our second conditional claim. We need 2 of them before we get to the conclusion in the hypothetical syllogism.